What do you imagine when you think of the Maldives? Powdery white sand? Beautiful coral reefs? Pristine blue waters? If so, you are correct. The Maldives is the perfect setting for the ultimate tropical escape. It is on people's travel bucket list. It is heaven on earth. But what do we really know about the Maldives, considered a small island developing state or SIDS, aside from its picturesque natural beauty? In this video, we will put a spotlight on what is arguably one of the most beautiful places in our planet, and what realities threaten this paradise in the Indian Ocean. Officially the Republic of Maldives, this island nation is Asia's smallest by land area, but among the most geographically extraordinary on the planet. Spanning 90,000 square kilometers of the Indian Ocean, its landmass totals just 298 square kilometers, scattered across 26 atolls and over 1,000 islands. With no roads connecting its islands, travel is entirely by sea or air, with speedboat rides ranging from 10 minutes to 3 hours. This extreme spatial distribution makes the Maldives the most geographically dispersed sovereign nation in the world. Contrary to popular belief, the Maldives is not made of island chains, but of atolls, ring-shaped coral reefs and islets built over millions of years from ancient coral skeletons. In total, there are 26 atolls composed of 1,190 coral islands, with only a fraction inhabited. But its most defining feature? The Maldives is the lowest lying country in the world, with an average elevation of just 1.5 meters above sea level. Its highest natural point rises only to 2.4 meters, barely taller than NBA superstar LeBron James, who stands at 2.06 meters. The Maldives has no rivers or streams, thus it has very limited freshwater resources. The primary sources of freshwater are rainwater and groundwater from shallow lenses above the seawater that permeates the limestone and coral sands of the islands. In short, the Maldives is Asia's smallest, most dispersed, and lowest lying country, with scarce freshwater resources, and its stunning yet fragile geography makes it incredibly vulnerable to climate change. Over 526,000 people live in the Maldives, almost double its population from 20 years ago. Nearly half reside within 100 meters of the coastline, just above sea level. The Maldivian economy relies on two main pillars: tourism and fisheries, which together account for nearly half of the country's GDP and employment. Tourism alone draws around 500,000 visitors annually and contributes 28% to GDP. It drives economic growth by creating both direct and indirect jobs and stimulating related industries. Fisheries, the second largest sector, are rooted in traditional practices like pole and line fishing, especially for skipjack tuna, a key export and livelihood source. The country's unique geography limits domestic production. As a result, the Maldives depends heavily on imports for fuel, construction materials, manufactured goods, and most food supplies. Fish is the only food product the country is self-sufficient in. Over 90% of other food, including staples like rice, is imported. This dependence is reflected in its economy. Imports account for 61% of GDP, with a peak of $375 million recorded in December 2024 alone. In contrast, exports, mainly fish, contribute only 11 to 15% of GDP. The trade imbalance is offset by a net surplus of around 34%, largely from tourism activities and remittances. But this delicate balance is under pressure. Climate change not only threatens the Maldives' land and livelihood, it risks disrupting the very systems the nation depends on to survive. Economic resilience and environmental survival are no longer separate challenges. They are one and the same. According to the 2024 World Bank Country Climate and Development Report, the Maldives faces multiple climate threats. Its coral reefs, critical for beach formation, coastal protection, and tourism, are rapidly degrading. The World Bank warns that nearly all coral cover could disappear if global temperatures rise above 2 degrees Celsius, emphasizing the urgent need for global emission cuts and stronger local conservation. Sea level rise poses an existential threat. 14 islands have been abandoned due to intense erosion and natural disasters. By 2050, 80% of the Maldives could become uninhabitable. The World Bank projects that future sea levels rising between 10 to 100 centimeters by 2100 could submerge the entire country. Relocation is severely constrained by limited land. Even minor evacuations cause major social and logistical challenges, as in 2007, when a devastating storm surge forced the island of Hathifushi to be abandoned. Coral bleaching, caused by rising sea temperatures and ocean acidification, continues to damage reefs, which are vital for biodiversity, coastal defense, and the fishing and tourism economy. Recent bleaching events have destroyed large reef areas, threatening ecosystems and livelihoods. Coastal erosion is worsening as well. Over 90% of resorts surveyed report beach erosion, and 60% have sustained infrastructure damage linked to island development and climate change. This erosion worsens water scarcity. Traditionally reliant on rainwater harvesting and shallow wells, the Maldives now struggles to meet freshwater demand from growing populations and tourism. In Male, 79% of households use bottled water, mainly due to taste and safety concerns, despite desalinated tap water availability. This heavy reliance on bottled water and imported goods fuels another crisis: plastic pollution. The World Bank estimates that the Maldives produces 365,000 tons of solid waste a year, the bulk of which is generated by its thriving tourism industry. Current waste management practices cannot keep up with population growth and the pace of development. Statistics revealed a 58% increase in waste generated per capita on local islands in the last decade. Additionally, harmful plastics were likely both transported by ocean currents from neighboring countries like India and Sri Lanka. Thus, the amount of microplastic pollution in waters around the Maldives is amongst the highest in the world. Disposal of waste in the Maldives has inherently been burning. Islands usually burn their waste by the water's edge, making it easy for debris to be carried into the ocean, whilst the smoke is transmitted via the water table to the coral. Burning plastic increases the carbon footprint. Gases are released, so the resulting carbon emissions are returned to the ocean via wind, rain, and other atmospheric conditions. So, it's a vicious cycle of environmental disaster brought to you by poor waste management and plastic pollution, a deadly combo. Plastic waste also endangers the health of those living in or visiting the Maldives. When plastic is burning, it releases toxic and carcinogenic gases, posing a health threat to Maldivians who breathe the polluted air. It also potentially has a severe impact on marine life in shallow reefs and threatens the livelihoods of island communities. The amount of microplastic pollution in the Maldives is among the highest in the world. Despite some policies to curb the problem, such as the prohibition of open burning in tourist resorts, the disposal of plastic waste presents a continuing challenge for guest houses, local island populations, safari boats, and fishing vessels. The Maldives faces significant environmental, economic, and social challenges, particularly related to climate change, resource management, and extreme weather events. Much has been written about its susceptibility to rising sea levels and coastal erosion, to coral bleaching, and other environmental issues the country faces. There is also an emerging discourse on its newly identified problems: plastic pollution, poor waste management, and depleting sources of fresh water. As the world's most dispersed, smallest, and lowest-lying nation, the Maldives faces these extreme challenges head-on. What it urgently needs are bold solutions, because without them, this island paradise will not just be a cautionary tale, but a devastating example of how extremes can turn a dream into a disaster. The fate of the Maldives stands as a powerful warning. When extremes collide, the consequences can be irreversible.